come from?
Gentlemen, do you realize what we've found?
It came from outer space to fill the world with terror.
What earthly power can stop this terror?
That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop.
Broadcasting from outer space.
Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby?
Let's try this again. Round 2. Here we go. We're live.
Welcome back to the podcast from outer space. It's your boy Rob Scott. We got Adam Narlock in the house this evening.
Hey guys, thanks for listening.
And as always, it's Ryan Scott.
Greetings, Earthlings.
And once again, welcome, Loyal Legion. We have finally made it to number 69. And
69. Nice.
We thought this time, do a little something different for you guys. And we landed on the often skepticized topic of witches. Figured witches, 69.
No.
In the mix,
You're throwing Adam and I into this category of we. When you said, of all people, you've got a surprise put together for issue 69. You wanted to cover issue 69.
Yes, I did. And I did that for you, didn't I?
And you landed on witches because you have some deep fantasy with witches now?
Maybe.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Some people are into that,
Okay, now why did we settle on witches, Rob?
Figured, hell, I like witches. Maybe you guys will too.
Okay. Okay, now for this topic, as we briefly mentioned, this was a little collaborative effort. However, Rob kind of was at the helm of this one, if you will.
Carried the load, we'll say.
Yes. Now, I guess what we kind of wanted to do was, because witch is obviously a big topic, but Salem is something particular that's always interested Rob, and he figures, hell, we'll just dip our toes in it tonight, kind of give you the highlight reel, touch on some pop culture stuff. I got that right? How we doing?
Well, I think we're going to basically hit the broad strokes, if you will. Because there's a lot to be covered on witches, and we don't have all night here.
Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot.
So this is going to be.
We're going to eat around the bush.
Basically, giving you a highlight reel. It's like the NFL red zone. Good analogy there.
Yeah, and before we kind of get into it, let's just say we know everything is a little bit crazy right now, a little bit hectic.
Very crazy.
We had this episode planned. Now, a lot of you have been asking coronavirus. We got to hear the hot takes, the conspiracies, what's going on, what is it? There seems like there's a lot of, what's the term I'm looking for here? Wheat and chaff?
What's really going on?
Wheat chaff. There's a lot of wheat chaff out there about the coronavirus.
I don't know if that's the correct term.
And
are you trying to say witchcraft?
No, he's saying wheat chaff, like chafing?
Okay. Anywhom, we're putting together an episode. That's what we're going to do in quarantine here. We're all on lockdown. Well, what's up with North Carolina? Lockdown mode yet?
I don't think we're quite at that level, but things are shutting down.
Well, it's lockdown here, so, we'll be working on getting to the bottom of this whole thing this weekend, and we'll hopefully have that out for you guys soon. So let's get into this one. Now, we got to start off. We got any info on the topic of witches? Like what comes to your mind, when you think of that kind of stuff? Or I guess what was your first exposures to witches, if any, real or fictional?
Man, I knew this question was going to come up, and I thought about this all week, and I completely forgot what I had in mind.
Oh, that's great. Anyways.
That is.
Moving right along. I think.
What about you? What do you?
I wrote a whole damn outline about witches. That's how. What about me?
What?
I would say, when I think of witches, probably the first thing that comes to mind is either Hocus Pocus or, Wicked Witch of the West, Wizard of Oz. Maybe you're familiar.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Now it's all coming back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
did that stir up any recollections that you might have had?
Yeah, Wicked Witch of the West for sure. Harry Potter, Witches and Wizards, right?
Yeah, Hermione.
Does that count?
Hermione and Harold.
So Harry Potter.
I know there was more.
What about you, Ryan? You didn't even answer the question. It's only up to me and Adam.
no! Now here, I got some stuff. Don't you worry that.
Don't you worry that.
Don't you worry about that.
Well, are we going to get to it later in the outline?
No. We're getting to it right now. Okay.
No, it is.
Is Bloody Mary a witch? Like, you know, the Bloody Mary thing?
No, that's different.
The like game in the mirror, you say her name?
That's more of like a demonology, I would say.
Because I specifically remember us trying that and being horrified, and I saw like a long hand with fingernails come out of the bathroom.
Please.
Please.
That was a fake hand.
So you were fucking with me.
Yeah, you remember that fucking witch hand that we used to have that we put out in the yard for Halloween?
All right. Well, for some reason, I have that
Surprise.
being very real in my mind. And yes, this was just like the time Rob tried to hang me as a Halloween decoration. My dad tied us a noose. You know, we were big into Halloween, so he would say, "Hey, go put this in the tree. You know, hang the skeleton. You kids can play around with this noose."
Here's the noose I tied for you guys.
This is a legitimate noose. Rob says, "Hey, Ryan, it'd be cool if you hung from this for like 2 seconds, and I'll pick you up." He was like 10. There's no way he could have lifted me up. If I had done it, I'd be dead right now.
Well, we're all glad you didn't.
And, you know, these are some of the things that come to my mind when I think about witches.
Is hanging from a noose?
Yeah, because, you know, Halloween, witches, like Mom would dress up as a witch. You tried to hang me from a noose.
Yeah, classic
and you
Halloween
played
prank.
Bloody Mary pranks on me. And then also, like, I think every town has like a witch legend, right? Like we had the witch of Pungo, Virginia.
Witch.
I don't think
Yeah.
every town does, but a lot, maybe.
But you know, like everybody's got the creepy, like old hag house, maybe like witch house.
The old hag house. I think it's more of a East Coast thing, though, you know, now that I've been out here for a while.
Older, you know.
Okay.
You know the now y'all got me thinking about witches. Remember that witch from Bugs Bunny?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There was this lady that used to sub at our school that I taught at, and the kids referred to her as the witch because she looked just like that lady. And she would take an Uber to school every day, and they'd be like, "That's her broomstick."
Now, see, that's what I'm talking about. These are some of these creepy legends. They call that lady the witch. That's classic kid stuff right there, messing around with witches, you know?
Yes.
But yeah, I think, you know, every town has that kind of creepy thing. Any listeners out there from any other towns, let us know what your local witch was.
Or maybe you are the local witch.
Yeah. Now,
Give Rob your number.
witches, obviously they're real. They're a big thing. Do you guys know of any witches personally, or have you ever met a witch? Obviously, Adam, you had one at your school.
I don't know if that was a real
Craziest
witch.
lady, dude. She said she like graduated top of her class from Stanford, worked for NASA, did all this stuff
Okay. Doesn't sound like a witch.
because of her powers.
All right, Rob, any real witches you met out there on Bumble, Tinder? What are we talking?
Haven't met any on the dating apps, but
I wonder if there's like a witch specific dating app.
Oh, I was just going to say there has to be.
if not, we're gonna patent
Gotta
that. So copyright.
Yeah.
Now, Nikki
Right.
Snyder, isn't she like a witch?
I was just gonna say that you
Ooh.
took the words right out of my mouth.
She's like maybe Wicca or something like that. Like just
I mean, that's still like a self-proclaimed
yes,
witch.
I'm aware of that. So who knows? Nikki, if you're out there listening, let us know.
Ryan, what's up?
And also shout out Ryan Mueller for stirring that potion.
Now,
He got in that cauldron.
I think I know the answer to this one, but you guys ever been to Salem?
Personally, have not. Adam might have been.
One of the few places I have not been in my travels.
Well, maybe we make it up there one day. Now, let's
I'm
hop
really
right.
excited.
Let's hop right into it. Right off the bat, let's define witchcraft. Now, Rob pulled this from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So, witchcraft is one, the use of sorcery or magic, communication with the devil, or with a familiar.
Now, Adam, are you familiar what a familiar is? Because Ryan was not.
Do you know what a familiar is?
Is that Spanish for family?
No, this is
That's
like
familiar.
I guess the
La
familiar is
Familiar.
like you said it best. Harry Potter. He's got an owl. Like they all get to pick their animals. I guess witches like have animals as compadres.
Why are we
Like
going
cats and
Spanish on
shit.
this?
What? Yeah, like sometimes they're cats, sometimes they could be a pig. I guess. Like I guess the animal could be whatever you want. They just talk to animals. They love animals.
Sure. That's legit.
I mean,
Crying.
this
Is
is
he
the
crying?
definition from the dictionary, dude. I'm just reading specific facts.
You got this
Keep
man
going.
crying.
Now, the second definition is an irresistible influence or fascination. Now, with what I don't know. It didn't say anything else.
Well, obviously, women.
So I think it's like maybe this is like the Santana song, you know?
Santana, Black Magic Woman.
Yeah, like he loves the witches, just like this
Nice,
guy over here, Rob.
nice.
Or Frank Sinatra, Witchcraft. You know the song. Maybe you're familiar with that.
Or 2 Chains.
He's got a song about witches.
He loves bad witches. That's his fucking problem.
Jesus. All right, now
And he likes to fuck. He's got a fucking problem. We're going to go ahead and pop the top on this cold bitch in America's own asshole, a.k.a. Massachusetts.
now I would think like
Oh, nice.
See?
Okay.
This guy knows where I'm going with it. Now, apologies off the bat to any of those kid-kissing Pats fans out there, you know. Sorry about
Leave
your
those
loss.
guys alone, man. They've had a tough week already.
guys, we are not going to malign our great listeners from the state of Massachusetts. It's a fine state.
It's fine.
What, 6 rings?
Fine.
Guys, come on. We don't need to hear that. Are you a Patriots fan? now that
Okay,
Tom's
I'm
not
just
there?
saying I love
This guy's a bandwagon.
I love our listeners in Massachusetts, and you guys are being a little harsh, calling them the assholes and stuff.
Oh, the massholes. I said they had a rough week. You got to lay off. They just lost the boss man, TB12.
All right, continue.
Witchcraft.
TB to TB.
Collusion.
Well, for most of us here, you know, when you hear the term witch, as we discussed previously, Salem is basically synonymous with the word witch. Am I right? No?
I'd agree.
Yep, Salem Moon.
You know, I'm thinking that, or I'm thinking Sanderson Sisters, Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
Also takes place in Massachusetts, coincidentally.
Oh, I
Now-
did not think I knew that.
Now, this is because it is the resting place of over 200 accused witches in the late 1600s. Now, go ahead and, pour one out. Burn one, if you will, for these guys.
Burn some sage.
Talk to an animal.
Yeah.
A familia. Now, of the 200 accused, 25 of them would suffer death. Now, 5 of these guys would perish in jail. One would be stoned. There's guys and girls. We're going to get to that later in the outline.
Okay.
And 19 others would die at the gallows. Now, you know, while a majority of the accused were women, several men also suffered accusations as well.
Okay. Now, let's start off like, I guess, so this is going to be a primarily Salem episode, but the origins of Salem begin. Well, let's just get into the origins of, I guess, witches. You know?
Origin story, witch?
Yeah, origin stories. So this is like early witches, like we're talking pre-biblical. These were people who used magic spells, called upon spirits for help or to bring about change. Now, most of these early witches were essentially pagans, thought to be doing the devil's work. However, it seemed that
Playing foosball. Listening to rock and roll.
However, it seems they were, I guess, like shamans or natural healers, wise women whose choice or profession was simply misunderstood.
Like a yogi.
I mean, not like they're not out here just teaching yoga. They're making like essential oils and shit. I guess similar to maybe one today.
A lot of people that do yoga are into that stuff, bud.
Okay.
Crystals, essential oils,
Yes.
burning sage.
Now it will come full
Sacred
circle as
G.
we'll see. But so nobody truly knows exactly when witches came about. One of the earliest records of a witch is in the Bible, in the book of Samuel. which is estimated to have been written between 931 BC and 721 BC. So it's like almost 3,000 years ago.
Some people say Eve was the first witch.
Now, this story, Book of Samuel. You guys familiar with the Book of Samuel? Okay.
I'm not really.
Never heard of it.
All right. Well, take you to
Adam?
Bible school.
Adam, you're a religious man. Come on.
It's Bible school time. So this tells the story of King Saul. He's going to the Witch of Endor to summon the dead prophet Samuel's spirit in order to help him defeat the Philistine army.
He had to get Luke to help him out on that one.
Yeah, now right out, right off the bat, I'm thinking Witch of Endor. This has Star Wars written all over it, but no, this is the Bible.
Little Ewoks running around.
So he's trying to
What's
summon.
the difference, really? You know,
They're
they're both made up stories.
Now he's trying to summon this dead guy, help him defeat the Philistine army, and the witch conjures up Samuel, who then prophesies the death of Saul and his sons. The very next day, Saul's sons died in battle. So this is like a Saving Private Ryan type situation. And Saul himself committed suicide. Now, there are other biblical passages which caution against divination, which is like looking into the future, crystal balls, that type of shit. Chanting or using witches as mediums to contact the dead. So this is a big no-no in the Bible.
Don't want you to have any fun.
Now, so I guess those are kind of the earliest incantations of witches. Is that the right word? I got that right?
Yes, you did.
Now, obviously, we're talking about Salem here. Now, Salem, it didn't just start right off the bat in the U.S. This was a seed that was growing for many, many years, germinating, if you will, over in Europe.
In Germany, actually.
Now, yes, Germany is part of Europe.
Germinated in Germany.
So let's get into some of these like overseas origins, because of course all the horrors that plagued Salem stemmed from the atrocities in Europe, where the reign of King James in England mixed with the Inquisition would see thousands burned at the stake or hanged under charges of witchcraft and wizardry. Now, again,
just like in Monty Python.
Exactly like that.
Basically the same thing.
Now, we're not going to fully touch on this because each of those could be a topic in their own right. The Inquisition's fucking brutal. And even like England witchcraft, we could even get into a lot of cases of that. And if that's something you want to hear, let us know. We'll devote a future podcast to it. But that being said, why don't you guys go ahead and pour one out for the over 40,000 that were put to death in Europe from the 16th to 17th century. Now, while an exact number is not known due to poor record keeping, historians estimate anywhere from 40,000 to 100,000 Europeans were convicted and put to death during that period for practicing witchcraft.
Now, while you're on the topic, I actually, in my research, found some people put the number as high as 300 to 400,000, but most historians kind of agree on that 40 to 100,000 number.
Okay, so either way.
I mean, they weren't really out there keeping a fucking tally mark of all the people they killed.
Now, is this around the same time frame as the plague? Is that why these witches are dying? Or do we know for a fact they're being pushed to death?
No. Plague was many. Plague is Middle Ages, dude.
Yeah,
plague was like 13.
Is that like 1300s?
Yeah, it's like 1357, I believe. 1340s.
All right. We're way past that.
Yeah, we're way past that. We're out of the Middle Ages. We're into the whole fucking industrialization, that type of shit. And then we're into the basically church, the English Reform, and they're basically crying witch hunt,
Crying witch.
And now Rob's pulled a couple documents. Rob, you want to take it?
So this era in time gave birth to such documents as the Malleus Maleficarum, which was written in 1520 and published by Heinrich Kramer. Now, not too much to say about this guy. He's basically a fucking douchebag. and he tried to instigate witch hunts in his hometown and was excommunicated by his church and townspeople for having no viable evidence for his claims. So he packs up his fucking shit, goes carpetbagging on to another small German town, and he's like, hey, you know what? Fuck those guys. I'm going to write this book, Maleficarum, and hey, I'm going to add this other guy's name on it, Jacob Springer. Now, Springer was a very well-known theologist of his time. I can't really think of a good person to compare it to because, you know, theology is not as big of a deal now as it was back in the fucking 1500s.
Maybe like a Sam Harris type? Like he's a real famous philosopher, atheist guy.
Okay, well, nonetheless, this guy was dead, and Kramer's like, you know what? He helped me write this, so he puts his name on the publication. So people just start eating this shit up because they're like, oh, well, if this guy said it, and he just died, so, you know, they say artists are most famous after they're dead. Am I right?
Now, so did he want to say this is my co-author, or was he trying to do like a Tupac mixtape, like this is leaked after the death, you know, life after death?
I wrote this book a long time ago.
Yeah, something similar to that, and he's trying to make copies of it, you know?
No, well, he basically was like, hey, me and this guy, you know, we wrote this before he died, and I just put it out, you know?
So he's like J-Rock from Trailer Park Boys, like
exactly.
You know, it's cross promoting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Many people in the time are, however, unaware and grabbed onto this right as witchcraft becomes a lightning rod in Europe. So, you know, this is pretty much the exact same time as the Inquisition is going on. So everyone's already like in a fucking public scare of like, oh, what's going on? Like, what's going to happen? And then this book comes out and everyone fucking eats it up like it's a fucking tweet from Donald Trump.
Okay. Okay, now going off the whole like him pulling in the theologist guy, what is his name? Jacob Springer?
Yes.
Now, everything I found, like I think this is still a topic of contention. Like some people say he actually did help him write it. Others say
some people, you know.
So he may or may not have had anything to do with the book.
I mean, from the two documentaries that I watched, they made it seem like Kramer was fucking pissed off that no one was listening to him, so he used this guy's name after his death to help sell his book, basically, and then this shit basically becomes, you know, Witch Hunter's Guide for Dummies.
Okay, and then now Kramer getting pissed off, that aligns with history.
Yeah, the guy wasn't
She's
getting
a witch.
fucking laid.
She's a witch.
So he just decides that every woman in Germany is a witch because he's not getting any pussy.
Okay, now we've got a quote from the book right here, which we're going to have Adam read for us.
Witches are so called on account of the blackness of their guilt. That is to say, their deeds are more evil than those of any other malefactors. They stir up and confound the elements by the aid of the devil, and arouse terrible hailstorms and tempests. They distract the minds of men, driving them to madness, insane hatred, and inordinate lust. By the terrible influence of their spells alone, as if it were by a drop of poison, they can destroy life.
Now, everything that I found, basically, so this book comes out, Maleficarum. What is it? Maleficarum?
No, dude, Maleficarum.
Okay. So this is basically, this book basically catapulted witch mania into mainstream consciousness. Now, the title, this translates to the Hammer of Witches.
It's like the Hammer of the Gods.
Yeah, now this was essentially what the book was a training manual on how to identify, hunt, and interrogate witches.
This is basically, you know, the original black metal. Hammer of the Witch.
Now, this labeled witchcraft as heresy. It quickly became the authority for Protestants and Catholics trying to oust the witches living among them. And for more than 100 years, the book sold more copies of any other book in Europe except for the Bible.
Now, do you think that's true, or do you think that this was the top seller and they just didn't want to say that?
I think
the Bible doesn't want to not be number one.
I think this guy was onto something with his Tupac mixtape idea. I think it really worked because this is going platinum. This is going triple platinum.
And he got more John Blaze shit than they did.
Yeah. He said the Bible, that shit's all right. That's all right.
It was all right.
Now, the Bible might tell you about witches, but I'm going to show you how to hunt and kill them. And people people ate this shit up. Witch hysteria was at its most extreme in Europe during the mid 1400s. So not too long after the plague there, Adam.
Heinrich the Hammer Kramer is what they called him.
Now, when many accused witches confessed, of course, under torture, to a variety of witch activities, within a century, witch hunts were common, and most of those accused were executed by burning at the stake or hanging. Now, single women, widows, and other women on the margins of society were hit the hardest.
Now, what if this was some sort of like Rob Stone fetish? Like these dudes just wanted to hook up with witches and kill them. Like that's how they get off. That's their sick.
No, I don't even think it's that far. I think they were just hooking up with these chicks, and when someone found out, they're like, "Oh, she's a fucking witch. Let's kill her."
Yeah, that actually kind of holds a little more water. I like a lot of the things I saw where it was kind of like that. For instance, in The Crucible, we got Winona jerking off Daniel Day-Lewis, and then he's like,
"Who wouldn't?
Hey, she's a witch. Let's get her out of here." It's just kind of an easy way for the male patriarchy, if you will, to just get rid of these women that they didn't want to have around.
Drop the hammer, some might say.
Yeah. Now, between the years 1500 and 1660, up to 80,000 suspected witches were put to death in Europe, and around 80% of them were women, thought to be in cahoots with the devil. Now, Germany,
which is in Europe,
had the highest witchcraft execution rate because, as we know, the Germans are great at executions.
Oh God!
Now, Ireland had the lowest, and this is also probably because Ireland was like very sparsely populated.
And they just like fighting people, not killing them.
Didn't they have like a large pagan population up there, though?
Probably.
Yeah, all the British Isles.
All the Highlanders, lassie.
But they all lived together, so they weren't trying to kill each other. They were cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a nudist colony.
Living off the
something.
land, praying to the god of the sea, that kind of thing.
Now, there's another book we got in here. This is Demonology. 1597, is published by James VI of Scotland. Is that 6 or 5?
That's a 6, baby.
Okay.
Now this is just another example of a crazed lunatic who encountered something that he thought might be witchcraft, and published a book that's going to go triple platinum and cause widespread panic throughout Europe.
Now, but 1597, so he was kind of hopping on the craze at this point.
Yeah, but also I feel like back in the day, I don't think that England was as connected to the rest of Europe as it is today. They didn't have the bullet train. I mean, obviously they had probably heard of that book by then, but this guy had, a personal encounter with his soon-to-be bride from Norway coming over from to Scotland. And, this big-ass storm happens, and someone put the fucking birdie in his ear that, maybe it was the doing of witches or witchcraft. And then this guy just basically lost his shit and wrote a whole book about how to get witches out of Scotland.
Okay.
Because, he's basically, at the time, was the prince of Scotland, soon to be king. He doesn't have, got a lot of free time on his hands.
Okay.
Figured out, I'll write a book about this.
So, these two books are essentially, boom, witches are in the mainstream. They're hunting them down. They're killing them. Now, I pulled some of these. These are like famous witch trials, which kind of set a precedence for Salem, I guess, if you will. All right, so this first one we got is the Aix-en-Provence. This was a series of alleged cases of demonic possessions occurring among the Ursuline nuns of Aix-en-Provence in the south of France in 1611.
Shout out to Greg, south of France, baby.
Bunch of pussies.
So this guy is basically accused and convicted of causing the possession by a pact with the devil. He's executed by strangulation, and then his body is burned.
Father Louis.
Now, the case provided the legal precedent for the conviction and execution of urban grandeur in Loudun more than 20 years later. Now, before that, we got the trials of the Pendle witches. This was in 1612. These are among the most famous witch trials in English history. 12 of the accused live in the area surrounding Pendle Hill in Lancashire.
Oh, they're out in Lancashire.
And they were charged with the murders of 10 people by the use of witchcraft, and all but 2 were tried at Lancaster Assizes on the 18th and 19th of August in 1612, along with the Samlesbury witches and others. Now, in a series of trials that have become known as the Lancashire Witch Trials. Now, of the 11 who went to trial, 9 women and 2 men were found guilty and executed by hanging. One of them was found not guilty.
How much you want to bet it was one of the guys?
Now, this is back to France. We're hopping back over to France. This is
Love it.
the Loudun possessions. This was basically a notorious witchcraft trial in Loudun, France in 1634. This was when the coven of Ursuline nuns said they had been visited and possessed by demons following an investigation by the Catholic Church. A local priest named Father Urban Grandeur was accused of summoning the evil spirits, and he was eventually convicted of crimes of sorcery and burned at the stake. Now, so these 3 trials, I guess, are kind of some of the most famous ones. Honestly, Loudun possessions, if you want more info on that, check out last podcast on the left. They did a great series on that. And it's real in detail. But these kind of like set the precedence for the fucking coming over here with all these religious yahoos coming over here.
Religious yahoos.
And starting the Salem Witch Trials. Well, you know, because I'm thinking about this. Now, Teabag, maybe you can shed some light on this.
You're a religious man, yes?
So English reform. So basically, now tell me if I get this right. This is a massive condensation. Is that the right word? I'm condensing this history.
Yeah.
Okay.
So English reform. Basically, England splits off from the Pope, and they're like, Catholicism, catechism, that's too much for us.
It was all right.
Yeah, we're splitting off. We're reforming. We're doing our own thing. And these Puritans are like, we're not reformed enough. We got to get more religious.
We must be pure.
We must be pure, I say, good sir. And they're fucking.
Let us go take over the land from the natives.
Yeah, and the English people are like, hey, these fucking Puritans are too religious. Get these guys out of here. And then they come over here because they can basically do whatever the fuck they want.
Until they get murked by Native Americans.
Yeah, now what are we thinking here? You're Puritan, or what are we talking about?
No, I thought you guys were Puritans.
What even is Puritan?
Adam's more of a Protestant.
Catholic? You Catholic over here? What do we got?
Yeah, born and raised Catholic. My understanding of the whole split from the church was so that the king could divorce his wife, right? That was like the big thing. He wanted to be able to divorce his wife. And I guess these Puritans, which were like, no.
But the Catholics and the Puritans were also like against each other as well, right? Like basically what I'm getting at is this English king wanted to divorce his wife. He's saying catechism, way too fucking crazy. Get that shit out of here.
Catechism?
Yeah, isn't that what it's
the
called?
right word. Catholicism.
No, that's a real word. No, catechism is a real thing. Yeah, you're good.
So I think he's saying, fuck these Catholics. And then the Puritans are like saying, well, we got to be more religious than this. He's just trying to find a middle ground. And then he kicks these Puritans out. They come over here and find our country. It's like Eurotrip. Our country was founded by prudes. These guys just wanted to goof off, get divorced from their wives, get blown by as many chicks as possible.
And the Puritans, they say, hey, no need to get divorced. Just say they're a witch and we'll kill them.
And they're saying, get out of here. Go do your fucking witch hunts elsewhere. And then that's when we got the whole fucking, we get the Salem Witch Trials out of that.
There it is. I couldn't have summed it up any better myself.
Okay.
Take it to the bank, kids.
So let's get into the Salem Witch Trials. Now, as we said up top, this is arguably the most famous case revolving around witches. And as we'll soon find out, did not start off as spooky as some of the urban legends may have you believe. Now, some of these urban legends, I mean, right off the bat, when you think of Salem witches, what do we know? Do we know anything?
You're thinking Sanderson sisters. You're thinking weird cemeteries. You're thinking
something crazy had to happen for them to start hanging these motherfuckers.
You're thinking
right?
ghosts, demons, witches.
Okay.
Scarlet Letter.
You're thinking about getting stoned in Salem.
All right, well, let's set the scene for you. I'll cut in some old fucking timey music here. We're gonna set the scene. So, close your eyes and just, picture this. The hysteria all began in the bleakest of Januaries, in the year 1692 of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Reverend Paris's daughter, Elizabeth, age 9, and niece, Abigail Williams, age 11, fell into fits of rage. They screamed, they threw shit around, they uttered strange sounds, and they contorted themselves into strange positions. Now, Abigail Williams, she was played by Winona in The Crucible, correct?
This is true.
One hot piece of ace.
Yeah, an 11-year-old girl.
No, in The Crucible, dude. Winona.
Still a little weird, knowing what we know now. Yes?
Yeah, that's just like Pocahontas,
13 years old, yeah. Pretty much the same thing.
So they start
different times.
They start having
around the same
fits.
time, actually.
They start having fits. They're screaming. They're throwing shit. They're making weird noises. A local doctor blamed the supernatural because, as me and Rob know, doctors back then,
Not that great.
not the
their
brightest
job.
guys.
They figured, hell, maybe it's a witch.
Now, how do y'all know that and I don't?
What? Because I was telling
said
Rob, I
that.
listened to this whole podcast on the death of George Washington, and he got pneumonia because he didn't want to take his wet clothes off at the dinner table, and the doctors wanted to take his blood and put beetles on his neck because they thought that would cure him.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
No, not leeches. They put these beetles that would sting his neck because they thought it would get out the bad blood or some shit.
Instead, he has a heart attack and dies.
And they did leeches, but they took half his blood. When if he just had his blood, he might have survived. But that's what they. And this is even before that, so we're dealing with even less of an actual knowledge of science. And these doctors are saying, well, hey, Reverend Paris, I can't tell you what the hell's going on. It's got to be supernatural witches.
Well, don't know the answers, witches.
Now, another girl named Ann Putnam, age 11, experienced similar episodes. On February 29th, under the pressure from the magistrates John Corwin and John Hawthorne, the girls went on to blame 3 women for afflicting them. Tituba, who was the Paris's... What? I can't even get through the slave's name without you laughing.
I think, is it Tituba or Tituba? Either way, there's tit in there, so it's great.
It's Tituba.
Tituba. This was the Paris's Caribbean slave. They also blamed Sarah Good, who was a homeless beggar, and Sarah Osborne, who was a poor elderly woman.
Related to Ozzy.
Now, all 3 women were interrogated for days on end starting on March 1st, 1692. Osborne and Good stood by their innocence, saying that they were falsely accused, but Tituba confessed, claiming,
The devil came to me and bid me serve him.
Now, she went on to describe images of black dogs, red cats, yellow birds, and a black man who wanted her to sign his book. She admitted
Was his name Dr. Seuss?
Dr. Seuss. So she admitted that she signed the book and said there were several other witches looking to destroy the Puritans. All 3 of these women were put in jail. Now, these cases specifically led to a mass hysteria and false accusations that would continue through the year. When charges came against Martha Corey, who was a loyal member of the church in Salem Village, the community grew concerned. They thought, hell, if she could be a witch, anybody could. Magistrates even questioned Sarah Good's 4-year-old daughter, Dorothy. And
Dorothy?
obviously, her timid, shy answers were seen as a confession.
Figured out, why not?
Now, the questioning grew more serious in April when Deputy Governor Thomas Danforth and his assistants attended the hearings. And from, I guess, what I could gather, people are torn on this guy. I've read mixed reviews. I think some people say this guy ramped up like the accusations. Other people say this guy was kind of skeptical of the hearings and helped to like bring an end to them. But anywho, dozens of people. Here's a picture of the guy right there. He seems like a nice guy.
Seems like a nice.
That's all.
Now, dozens of people from Salem and other Massachusetts villages were brought in for questioning. Now, in May, Governor William Phipps ordered the establishment of a special court for Suffolk, Essex, and Middlesex counties.
Sounds like places in Virginia.
The first case brought to this court was Bridget Bishop, an older woman known for her gossipy habits and promiscuity.
See?
Now, when asked if she committed witchcraft, Bishop responded,
I am as innocent as the child unborn.
Now, the defense must not have been convincing because she was found guilty and on June 10th became the first person hanged on what became known as Gallows Hill.
Problem with her defense is she has absolutely no defense.
Yes. Now, five days later, respected minister Cotton Mather wrote a letter imploring the court not allow spectral evidence. Now, you guys aware of spectral evidence? So I did not know what this was.
Yeah, it's like when someone's spirit comes to you.
Yes, this was in court. This refers to witness testimony that the accused person's spirit or spectral shape appeared to said witness in a dream at the time the accused person's physical body was at another location. This was accepted evidence in these courts. So,
Wait. You could like insidious somebody.
You could if the fucking People versus OJ had these laws, they could have just been like, I dreamed that OJ came and murdered me. Oh, guilty. There's no, you could just say that. There's no proof of that. Their spectral shape appeared to me in a dream when they were sleeping in their house miles away. Oh, sound evidence, sir.
Very convincing.
Yeah.
Guilty.
got to the gallows.
Hang the witch.
Now, the court basically ignored this request, and 5 more people were sentenced and hanged in July, another 5 in August, and 8 in September. On October 3rd, Increase Mather, who was the president of Harvard, denounced the use of spectral evidence by saying,
It were better the 10 suspected witches should escape than one innocent person be condemned.
Now, in response to Mather's plea, but probably more so to do with the fact that his own wife was being questioned for witchcraft, Governor Phipps prohibited further arrests and released many of the accused witches. He then dissolved the special court on October 29th, just in time for Halloween.
Now, is this a relation to Marshall Mathers?
I don't believe so. Mather, not Mathers. Now, Phipps eventually pardoned all who were in prison on witchcraft charges by May of 1693, but the damage had been done. 19 people were hanged on Gallows Hills. A 71-year-old man was pressed to death with heavy stones, and several people died in jail, and nearly 200 people overall had been accused of practicing the devil's magic.
Now, do you think this is just something that just kind of got out of hand?
Absolutely, hysteria.
They're just like, we just got to keep going with this.
Yes, hysteria, as we said. Now, In a moment of peak irony, it would be Tituba, the only of the original 3 to confess, who was pardoned, while Good and Osborne would be sentenced to hanging.
Interesting, because she was the slave of the guy that started it all.
It's like,
It's like, we don't need to hang
that's because
her,
they couldn't
guys,
say her
right?
name without laughing.
I think if they laughed at Tituba, they'd be hanged for being a witch.
Or maybe, they were so scared because she's actually one of the only ones that confessed to being a witch. They were like, well, if we kill this one, she might put a curse on us.
Oh, but they just knew they were killing innocent people.
Or maybe Dr. Seuss's friend.
I think the people that were doing it knew exactly what the fuck they were doing.
All right, well, Rob's got some theories on here, so here we go. What do we got?
All right, boys. Well, this is where it gets interesting because I got a few theories for you that the trials held in Salem were deeper than just a fear of witches and pacts with the devil. And it starts with Tituba because she is the only one who gave a detailed testimony of her dealings with the devil and linking her fellow townsfolk with him. But then she ends up getting pardoned in the end. That's a mystery. So I'm thinking, she's a slave of the guy who basically started this whole thing, which is Reverend Paris. So he's like, hey guys, she's a witch, but she needs to come back to my place,
Okay.
And they're just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. No one even knows if she actually did too much jail time.
Okay. So maybe some high up connections got her off.
Well, I'm thinking, we're going back to the 1600s. We don't have the smartest people, obviously. They're Puritans. And they're perplexed by the accounts of this crazy lady. Some people say she's from Barbados, perhaps South America. The whereabouts are not exactly known. But, what she is known for is peculiar rituals, strange tales of enchantment and mind control, having guys fall in love with you. And her testimony becomes the basis for the trial. And all these women that she starts accusing, Good, Osborne, are all coincidentally widowed or single women that have just acquired large sums of land or inheritances from their dead husband. So
No, I don't think that's true, though.
look it up, bitch.
This
Did
says-
you do the research?
No, I'm just,
Did you research it?
Yes, I did. I'm just saying, point counterpoint. Good and Osborne were both on the margins of society. Good was a homeless beggar, and Osborne was just some old hag.
Yeah, but she just got land from her husband, Osborne.
Okay, so only Osborne. Now, when you say that she was known for mind control and these rituals, are you saying that the people, just because she was a foreign slave, just thought of her like that, or this was proven she was slitting chickens' throats it's fucking
it's not
Angel
proven,
Heart?
but the girls that basically started it all, Abigail and
Yep.
the other bitch.
Yep.
They're all telling the court all these crazy things oh, Tituba showed us how to do this. She showed us a crystal ball. She did all this stuff. And she's just like, yeah, I did that because, the devil showed me how to do it.
And she's just fucking around?
I mean, who's to say, dude? I'm just saying, back in that day, if you had never seen someone like that, all you know is fucking white people.
Yeah.
And
That's what I'm
crazy
asking.
lady from some country you've never even heard of.
Well, she wasn't crazy. She was probably just a normal lady that was turned into a fucking slave and was like, fuck all these people.
Yeah, that's what I think, yes.
Okay.
But I'm saying put yourself in the shoes of a person in the 1600s. This is not what I personally believe. I'm just saying at that time.
They're crying witch.
They're like, holy shit, what the fuck? This lady's a fucking witch. And then, one person thinks it. The whole fucking town starts thinking it.
Okay. So mass
Because they're a bunch of
hysteria.
idiots.
Okay. So now back to this. What do we got?
Just quick question for Rob. When you say, look it up, bitch, what do you mean by that?
If you just research some of the women that were put on trial in Salem, Massachusetts in the 1600s, there was several of them that were recently widowed and given their husband's land or given their husband's money, and these guys from the church and the state are like, oh, these ones are the witches, and they're the ones in charge, so everyone in the town's just listening to what they say, when in reality some historians kind of believe that maybe these women were persecuted because of the fact that now that they're single, they don't have a husband that's going to back them up. And if you have like 10 dudes in charge of the county that you're living in that are like, well, she's a witch, let's hang her. And then, oh, boom, we get all of her land and her money.
So we're thinking maybe this Reverend Paris guy put his daughters up to this and his slave, and it's a whole conspiracy of like, these are the people you need to accuse?
That's a popular theory, yes.
Okay. Or is it like... let's start a hysteria no matter how, and then try to get these women convicted?
Well, personally, after doing the research, I think that it's his direct family and the slave that he owns that start the whole hysteria.
And so his slave coincidentally gets off scotch-free.
Yeah, so I think in the beginning, it was like, hey, let's pick these easy targets and, maybe we can get some money and some land out of it. And then everyone freaked out so much that they were just like, well, I guess I got to just keep on rolling with this thing.
Okay, so they don't look like some false prophets.
Yeah, like, well, just this lady, she's a fucking beggar. If I can kill her.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly the thought
like
process.
Bill Clinton.
And then he pulls out his fucking saxophone as they're hanging on the gallows.
I did careless whispers on Gallows Hill.
And as his wife's getting convicted, I did not have sexual relations with that witch.
She has a stain on her shirt, sir.
I say, good sir, is that a cigar?
Sir, I saw you in the office with that woman.
Now there's another popular belief of the they were tripping balls on some fungus.
Yeah, so unfortunately I can't remember the name of it at this said time, but some historians also believe that a spoiled batch of rye was to blame for these young girls' convulsions and hallucinations, because apparently under the right circumstances, when you're making rye bread,
and it would be fitting circumstances for Massachusetts at that time of year. Damp, humid, hot.
Yeah, so, a lot of factors have to go into this, but they've looked into it, and they think that, this specific bacteria that can basically breed in those conditions is basically like taking a light DMT or,
nice.
Like taking some shrooms. You're just tripping your balls off. And, if you're 11 years old, you're like, what the fuck is going on? You just had some fucking lunch. And then all of a sudden you got a witch yelling in your face because Tituba's in the house.
And these scientists didn't know this at the time, so they're thinking witches.
They're thinking, hey, I don't know what the fuck's going on with this chick, so chalk it up to a witch.
Okay. Now, I think those are the two biggest theories, other than just general hysteria, and the power of religion and faith is just so crazy that these people actually believed all this fucking crazy shit.
Crazy bullshit.
Now, I will say, all is said and done, obviously this was a kangaroo court. Now, in 1702, the court declared the trials had been unlawful, and in 1711, the colony passed a bill restoring the rights and good names of those accused and granting £600 restitution to the heirs. Now, that's around $45K in 2020 money. However, it was not until 1957, more than 250 years later, that Massachusetts formally apologized for the events of 1692.
But they're not assholes.
They're massholes.
Okay. Now, let me just drop this one last interesting theory that I came across on y'all and see what you think of this one. So, you guys ever heard of ley lines?
Yes.
Apparently, Ryan has some that run right across the crack of his ass, he told me.
Yeah, my butt crack is a massive ley line.
Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the term, it's basically relating to the magnetic lines in the earth where the EMF or the electromagnetic force is significantly higher. So the energy levels in these areas are drastically higher than they would be, away from these ley lines. So for those of you who believe in, Earth's energy and
crystals, chakras, that type of
maybe
bullshit.
you're a witch if we were living in the 1600s. And it's very interesting, though, some places that happen to be on or very close to the ley lines in the earth. We got Stonehenge. We got Mount Shasta. So peep our episode on Mount Shasta. Very interesting topic. If you haven't listened to that one already, highly recommend it. The Great Pyramids, another one that we've discussed, right on some ley lines. Lake Titicaca. Adam, I know you like that one.
Nice.
Mount Fiji. And alas, we have old Salem, Massachusetts, right? Fucking smack dab in the middle of one of the ley lines that goes across North America. So now whether this energy field had something to do with these fateful events that took place in late 1692, we may never know. But the place is for damn sure a hotbed for witches now. And, they're flocking to Salem, paying respects and keeping the magic of Salem alive and well.
Now, can I interject for 1 second here?
No, let's just break that down.
Now, so these ley lines, these locations.
Yes.
So we're just saying these ley lines could had to do with just bad energy, or is this
No. This is actually, for the most part, good energy, powerful energy. So, these places are renowned for having certain powers that.
So this would
people
check
might
out
not.
as if these were real witches.
Possibly.
So then that would mean the Puritans were in fact right in all this?
I mean, if
Or
you want
were-
my personal opinion, I feel like if you have some special powers that were given to you by Satan or some energies or some crystals, I feel like you should be able to use those powers against some fucking 80-year-old bitch-ass fucking Puritan guy.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm thinking if they're like, hey, you're a witch, and you're like, goddamn right, I'm a witch, and you fucking put a spell on that motherfucker, you don't just sit in jail and
Now,
cry about it.
is there witches in Lake Titicaca and Mount Fiji and stuff, or what is Stonehenge, like the Druids, right?
Yeah,
But they think that was like a burial site, but who really the fuck knows, right?
yeah,
Now Mount Shasta, that's like aliens, Hollow Earth,
yeah. Pyramids is
same thing. So maybe these witches were aliens. Is that what we're getting at here?
Could be. I didn't really find any theories about that, but I'm sure there's probably one crazy ass theory out there.
Okay, alien witches. Okay, so a lot of witches visiting Salem today.
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of interested in these ley lines, and if you guys are down, I'd be down to do a whole damn episode on it.
Yeah, I've seen that. Maybe you put that together. I saw you've been ordering a lot of crystals and energy books and that type of shit. You getting into ritual magic?
Yeah, man.
I've got a few books on ritual magic, masturbation sigils, Jack Parsons, that type of shit if you want to use them.
Not into that, but
That's ritual magic, baby.
I'm kidding, dude. I'm not into ritual magic. I'm not
Now,
a
Rob,
witch.
you a witch? I'm
Rob,
just asking.
I've seen the crystals, dude,
Clarifying for
and
the
the
loyal
sage.
No, but I am starting to believe in these crystals.
That's ritual magic, baby.
I'm not doing any fucking rituals.
He's jerking off on the crystals. I mean, I'm in. Yeah, let's do a fucking ley lines episode. We put that together, see what that's looking like. Maybe we connect the dots with some of these areas. We get to the bottom of this.
Am I?
Right before we hop into this next section, non-fictional witches. I know we talked like every story's got its local legend. So I pulled this one. I thought this was, maybe for the people that might not know, one of the most famous witches in Virginia's history. This is Grace Sherwood, also known as the Witch of Pungo. Obviously, all of us being from Virginia Beach, this was huge. Now, Grace Sherwood, her neighbors alleged that she killed their pigs, hexed their cotton, and could transform into a cat. Other accusations followed.
Believe that.
And Sherwood was brought to trial in 1706. Now, the court decided to use the old faithful water test to determine her guilt or innocence. We've got a picture of it there. Her arms and legs were bound, and she was thrown into the body of water. It was
Makes
thought
sense.
that if she sank, she was innocent, and if she
Makes
floated,
sense.
she was guilty. Now, take a look at that picture. I'll put this on the Instagram maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think going off of what you were saying, Adam, like they just wanted to like diddle these witches. They're into like BDSM stuff. You know, they're tying these witches.
That's what I'm getting from this picture.
BDSM catalog, and these Puritan guys are jerking off to it.
They're a couple of witch diddlers.
Yeah, now Sherwood. So the old water test. Now, what are we thinking here? You thinking she's gonna sink or float?
She tied up like that, she's sinking.
Well, she didn't sink, and she was convicted of being a witch.
She actually broke free of the bounds, is what I was told.
Now, she was put in prison and served 8 years. In 1714,
Hold on. If she floats, she's guilty. I thought if you float, you're innocent.
no, if you sink and drown, you're innocent. And then they're just like, fuck it.
You're dead either.
It's a lose-lose.
It's basically it's a farce, dude. It's a fucking joke.
These guys
I
want to
read that
diddle
wrong.
these
All right.
witches and get
Yeah.
away with it.
So she
Foolproof
serves,
way for them to do it.
So she floats, you know, she's put in prison. She serves 8 years. She gets out 1714. Her husband had died in 1701. Now she recovers the property from Princess Anne County.
I did 9 years in Walpole, motherfucker.
She did not remarry, and she lived on her farm until her death in 1740 at the age of 80. So there you have it. Grace Sherwood, Witch of Pungo. Check it out. I mean, there's a bunch more shit on her, but
Apparently, they recently knocked down the foundation of the house too. That was still standing until about 2014, 2015, I believe.
unbelievable.
Unfucking real.
Now, Rob has pulled some of the most famous witches. He's got 3 of them, so we're each going to take a stab at these. Give you some real quick witch history 101. Now, these are the most famous witches from medieval time through present day. So I guess, Rob, you want to take number 1?
Yeah, and you know, there was obviously a ton of these, so I kind of just broke it down, you know, one from modern times, one from in between, and then one from medieval times. But we're going to start with the most famous voodoo queen of all time, Marie Laveau. Now, Marie was born a free woman in New Orleans, in the mid 1700s, and she became well known in the voodoo priestess in Louisiana. Now, everyone came to Marie Laveau for cures and advice. Marie attended mass religiously, yet she was also an advocate for the voodoo now. And she practiced the magical arts. Now, all 3 classes of New Orleans society would call on Miss Laveau for her spells and her cures. Now, Marie Laveau is very famous in the witch history because she lived into her 90s now, y'all. Her 90s. And her grave in New Orleans in the St. Louis Cemetery will get more of a visitors on Halloween than a fucking Elvis Presley will. And that's what we got for her.
Now that's a fascinating, like voodoo in itself, because that's a whole nother sect that I'd love to get into. Like maybe we do a full episode on voodoo.
I'm down for that, dude. That's some really, like, if you thought this shit was weird.
And voodoo's much older, especially like we go back to like Africa.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Very weird.
Real
very,
crazy stuff
very,
going on there.
very crazy.
Now, Adam, you want to take number 2?
At number 2, we have Anne Boleyn. Boleyn was the second wife of the infamous King Henry VIII of England in the 16th century. Scholars say Anne Boleyn was not a witch, but that depends on your definition. She engaged in mystical practices and supposedly employed magical advisors. Throughout her years as Queen of England, Boleyn became an educated, extremely intelligent woman of power. The rumors and accusations of treason, adultery, incest, and witchcraft, which led to her eventual beheading. Anne is known as one of the most influential queens and witches in history.
Now, coming in at number 3, we got Laurie Cabot. Now, Laurie Cabot is the official witch of Salem, motherfuckers. And she's the most famous witch alive today. In my opinion, you know how you like them apples, Laurie. She is also the author of Wise Woman. Owned her own witchcraft shop in Salem for many years. And records videos on her YouTube channel there. And she aided the police in a murder case. As well as taught college classes on the occult. So, you know, modern time, the official witch of Salem there, motherfuckers. Boom, how you like them apples?
Touchdown, Tommy.
She even helped Tom Brady and Bill Belichick win a couple championships.
You never heard of Witchgate?
Occasionally you catch her at a fucking Sox game. She helped fucking Garnett in the fucking Game 7. Now, just to kind of, well, you know, so we're talking about the non-fictional. What do we got for fictional? You know, pop culture.
Just round this motherfucker off.
Yeah, round these witches off. Rob's pulled a list here, and I want to know if you come up with any new ones, Adam. So we got Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I think we're all familiar with that, old and new. Rob loves the new show. He loves teen dramas.
Love them. Can't get enough of Sabrina.
We got Hocus Pocus and the Sanderson Sisters. You know, if you haven't seen it, check it out while you're in.
If you haven't seen it,
while you're in quarantine, hey, I know people
why
that
are you
haven't
even
seen
listening to our podcast?
You know, Halloween Town. That's a good
great
one.
film.
Isn't it? Marnie is her name.
Yes.
The witch. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Halloween 3.
Bonnie?
Halloween 3 is that Season of the Witch.
It is, baby. Season of the
Okay.
Witch. Worst Halloween, but I
Yes.
had to throw it in the mix.
It's like, you know, the Mask. Actually, greatest Halloween, however you look at it.
Don't know about that one.
Now, there's also The Witcher. Isn't that like a show? I haven't
It
seen
is.
that.
It's a Netflix show, I believe.
Okay, I've yet to see that. Is that like the Game of Thrones ripoff?
I wouldn't call it a ripoff. It's more about wizardry and witchcraft. You know, it's like basically if Harry Potter and Game of Thrones mixed,
Like,
and then those two babies met and fucked.
you get The Witcher. Now, you guys remember The Witches, that Disney movie?
Dude, I don't remember this, but
Dude,
apparently it creeped Ryan the fuck
Scared
out.
the fuck out of me. Google that shit. Sure, it's probably on Disney Plus. And also going off that, remember Double Double Toil and Trouble?
The Olsen twins, I do. That's
That
a good
also
one.
scared the fuck out of me. We've also
How
got...
does an Olsen twins movie scare you?
Dude, I was a child watching a bum, like, steal them. It's like the bum in Dennis the Menace. That scene scared me.
Oh yeah.
Right? When you're a fucking little kid. Now, there's also A24's The Witch. Classic fucking film.
I was not that big of a fan of that one, honestly.
I think it was great. And, you know...
I do like their films, though. Shout out to A24.
Race to Witch Mountain. Now, I vaguely remember this, but...
Adam, you watched this, right?
In preparation for this episode, isn't that one have like The Rock in it, the remake?
That's the remake, but I'm talking the old classic.
The OG.
Oh, a long time ago. Yeah, I remember watching it with my uncle.
Yeah, I can't tell you what happens in it, but I do remember that. Obviously, we got Harry Potter, Coven, the American Horror Story series.
Some people say that is the best one.
Now, also Snow White. How about that?
Oh, and going back real quick to the Coven, actually, Marie Laveau makes an appearance in that one.
All right, Jesus Christ. Now, Snow White. Do you guys remember the rated R Snow White?
Do you remember the XXX Snow White?
Was that the same thing?
I don't know if there's a rated R one.
Dude, I swear to God, in Blockbuster, I used to go to the rated R section because I was not allowed, and I would look at the covers and the backs, and they had a rated R Snow White. I think it had Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver?
You know Sigourney Weaver from Alien? She's like the magic mirror on the wall witch. Anyways, that shit. That one scared the fuck out of me. But maybe it was just a porno that I was picking up, and that even
He just
could have
never
scared
knew.
me. Yeah.
He thought he was going to the rated R section this
Now,
whole
Rob,
time.
I think you had a good time seeing this one in theaters. Am I correct?
Yeah, fuck you. First movie I ever saw in theaters.
Scared the piss out of him.
Apparently, he was screaming at the witch part.
He
'cause I was
screamed at the
fucking
top
4
of his
years old.
lungs in the theater with Kathy.
Yeah, Ryan was not even there, so that's funny.
Now, okay. Now here we go, guys. This is the reigning, defending, heavyweight champion of the witches, Wizard of Oz, dude. Wicked Witch of the East, the fucking green one. That's like the most famous witch of all time. Am I right?
How about of all time?
I mean, this one again. Rob was so obsessed with the Wizard of Oz as a child, he could name every actor and who they played, and he had the dolls, and he was so scared of the witch doll that he pulled her apart and threw her in our closet
True story.
because he thought she was gonna like come alive at like a Toy Story
they're
situation.
Figures, they're not dolls. Would you call Anakin right there a doll?
That's a collectible.
Would
That's
you call
totally
Luke
different.
Skywalker up there a Luke Skywalker doll? You fucking asshole.
That's a collectible. That's totally different
I
thing.
guarantee you that if you look up those Wizard of Oz figures, they're worth more than your whole life.
Okay, we'll look that up. Now, do we know of any other of these fictional witches that we missed?
Hey, and I just want to put this out there. I'm thinking, in this day and age, Sanderson sisters put up a pretty good fight with Wizard of Oz for best witches of all time.
I'm saying Wizard of Oz came out in the 30s. It's the oldest.
I'm not talking
It's
about who's
just-
the oldest. I'm thinking of when you think of witch, that's kind of what comes to my mind is
But I
Hocus
still know
Pocus.
people who haven't seen Hocus Pocus.
Well, then you shouldn't be friends with them.
That's wonderful.
Who? Tell me who you know that hasn't seen Hocus Pocus.
Man, I don't remember who it is. I don't keep
Oh,
a fucking file. I'm not J. Edgar Hoover.
But you know some people, but you don't even know who they are.
I don't remember.
You're just saying it for sake of argument. I got it.
No. I'm okay. We'll do a
wow,
poll.
you're a witch.
We'll do
You're
a poll.
witch.
We'll do a poll.
Guys, he's a witch.
Let
We'll do
the
a
people
poll.
decide.
Yeah, we'll let the listeners decide who's more famous, the Sanderson sisters or the Wicked Witch of the East.
West.
West. I thought that was the good one.
East is Glenda,
Okay.
good witch.
She's nice too.
Very nice.
All right. Well, also check this out. Look into this because check this link out. There's this whole. This is called a Jew-witch camp,
Of course, Ryan finds this.
and this is because. All right, I start thinking automatically about the Dybbuk. Jewish religion is very old. They have to have some form of a witch or something like that, and I find there's this whole camp for Jewish people who are, I guess, like pagan witches, like Wicca.
That just
And-
doesn't make sense to me. How are you Jewish and also a witch? Are you like 50-50?
No, it's like your heritage, dude. Jewish, dude. And then like,
Come on.
yeah, and then you are also want to be like, doing like shaman, medicine man type shit. But anyways, Jew witch camp. Look into that.
Didn't some Jewish guys like make golems and stuff? Is that witchcraft?
I don't know if that's witchcraft.
Someone out there let us know. I'm interested. You got my attention.
You're talking about Modest Yahoo?
I don't think he made great raps, not golems.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, anyways, like just the culture of like I thought, Jewish religion's got to be fucking very old, so they have some form of a witch, and the Dybbuk in itself is very
Sure.
fucking creepy. We do a whole episode on that. But let's round this one out. We got the fucking modern day witches, the Wicca, they're known as. These are essentially like if you don't know what a Wiccan, I guess is their names, right? They're Wiccans. They practice Wicca.
That sounds right.
These are modern day witches.
Yeah.
And they struggle to shake the historical stereotype. I guess this is similar to like skinheads, you know? Like skinheads did not start off as Nazis. They were like factory workers in England that just shaved their heads because they worked in factories, and they were like cool with everybody. Then the Nazis took it and were like, fuck you, started getting racist. And now whenever you think of skinhead, that's what you think of.
Well, the Nazis steal a lot of things.
Exactly,
symbol,
yeah.
For example.
Same thing as witches, you know? Witches are condemned by the church, and now they got a bad rap. And these Wicca people, these are just modern witches practicing Wicca, which is an official religion in the United States and Canada. Now, Wiccans avoid evil and the appearance of evil at all costs, and their motto is harm none. They aspire to live a peaceful, tolerant, and balanced life in tune with nature and humanity. So they're kind of like Buddhists.
Okay.
You know?
Very one with nature.
The great Buddha.
I dig it.
Yeah. Now, many still practice witchcraft, but it ain't fucking poison apples and turning guys into toads, you know? Their spells and incantations are often derived from the Book of Shadows, which is a 20th century collection of wisdom and witchcraft. And I guess this can, like, them making spells and potions and shit is like prayer in other religions. Modern day potions are more likely to be herbal remedies as opposed to hexes in order to harm someone. Now, ironically, while it is probable that some historical witches use witchcraft for evil purposes, many may have embraced it for healing or protection against the immorality they were accused of. So basically, like a witch nowadays, or like a Wicca nowadays, is like a chick who's super into like Stevie Nicks.
So like Adam said, kind of like a yogi.
Yeah, like they're into crystals and healing and herbal shit, and then they dress like Stevie Nicks. And, you know, that's no disrespect. I am a huge fan of Fleetwood Mac.
Well, also, though, I feel like people can be spiritual, if you will, and get into the whole crystal and energy and healing thing without claiming Wicca.
Yep. And they're listening to Fleetwood Mac.
Like our boy Rob.
Yeah. Rob, you're basically half Wicca. Did you know that?
I'm just not claiming it.
Okay. You're not flying the flag.
I'm not doing healing potions and powers and stuff like that.
You haven't been jumped in yet? Now,
yeah, dude, it's not a game.
He hasn't earned his broomstick yet. But
yeah, dude. Just fucking hit after hit with the dad jokes over here.
Hey, guys, in all seriousness,
fucking write those down from dad earlier.
In all seriousness, guys, you know,
how's your ghostwriter?
Let's get serious for a minute, guys, because witches, whether actual or accused, they still face persecution and even death in the world today. Several men and women suspected of using witchcraft have been beaten and killed in Papua New Guinea since 2010.
Yikes.
Including a young mother who was burned alive. Someone was burned alive in 2010 for practicing witchcraft. Jesus. Now, similar episodes of violence against people accused of being witches have occurred in Africa, South America, the Middle East, and immigrant communities in Europe, and even right here in the US of A. So, to all you witches out there, fight the power. You know, keep on keeping on. You got our full support here at the podcast from outer space.
We got your back, baby.
And especially Rob loves witches. Rob might even be a witch. Or a warlock. Or a wizard.
Merman.
And we all know that wizards
You're
never
a wizard,
die. Now, so there you have it, guys. Witches, Salem Witch Trial, some general history on witches. If you want more information, let us know. Or if there's any witch-specific stuff you'd like us to cover, let Rob know, and he'll be able to put together an outline. He loves this stuff. You know, he's ordered the crystals. He's into the healing.
Ordered the crystals like it's a fucking starter set.
It is. It's a fucking witch starter set.
I got one thing, dude.
So, you know, we're going to be
fucking
doing
quartz crystal. It's pretty common,
Dude, I'm saying we're doing spells all weekend while we're in quarantine to get this fucking coronavirus out of here.
It actually is to ward off fucking negative energy.
Yeah.
So
there you have it. Now, for further readings on what we just covered, I wanted to cite History Channel, Haunted History Salem. Now, is that documentary?
this is a documentary.
It's a documentary.
As well as explore.org witch hunt.
Yes, and as well, another documentary, Timeline, A Century of Murder.
And the Salem Witch Trials documentary.
And also history.com, Folklore and History of Witches. So if you want further readings on any of this, go ahead and check that stuff out. And there you have it, guys. You know, little history on witches to keep you busy in these trying times of quarantine. Hopefully you're safe wherever you're listening to this. And as I said, we're working on an episode. You know, everything that's going on, a lot of bullshit to weed through. We want to put together a good episode for you guys. Hopefully we can get that wrapped up this weekend. And stay safe out there, guys. You know, signing off. Until next time.
As always, you know, feel free to hit us up on the gram, Podcast from Outer Space, our website, podcastfromouterspace.com. If you want to, you know, submit an idea that you have, maybe you're a witch, you want to give us a shout out. Maybe you want to hear more about witches, or maybe you want to just say what's up to us. Maybe you want to buy a t-shirt. Holla at your boy.
Yeah, and honestly, maybe it's more fitting on this episode. I know we quickly gave them a shout out on our last episode, Swamp Thing. But I think this one is more up their listening base's alley. But
ooh, it is a little something spooky.
Yeah, shout out to our friends over at Speak and Spooky. Give them a listen. Similar podcast. They talk about a lot of creepy shit and pretty good. So check them out.
And you said the name this time. Congrats.
And on that note, so long and thanks for all the fish.
You gotta pick up every stitch, yeah, uh-huh. You gotta pick up every stitch. Beatniks out to make it rich. Oh no, I must be the season of the witch, yeah. Must be the season of the witch, yeah. Must be the season of the witch.